Greetings and welcome to the first ever Diablo 4 build video on this channel. With that being said, of course, this is beta. This is the early weekend for the open beta. Things are subject to change, but I think the core gameplay will just stay as it is, and it's actually pretty fun already. So I think we have a nice build here on our hands. It only gets better over time because some of these skills I cannot max out because I'm only max level 25 is the beta level, and you can go up to level 50 in the release of the game. And then also there's 50 more Paragon levels, whatever they do, because we cannot see the Paragon boards yet. With that being said, let's go right into the skill tree. It starts with the basic skill, which is like your energy generator. And here I opted for puncture, which throws a blade at a short distance, but I also upgrade it so it throws 3 blades in a spread, and then it's like a spread damage also, like each blade does 35% of its damage, but you can hit multiple times, or multiple blades can hit one enemy. Especially if you hit an enemy with 2 blades at once, it makes them vulnerable, which is very important here. I also highlighted here because this is like what I would call a blade flurry crowd control build. I highlighted the crowd control aspect. You can see the circle with the little spikes here around. This is all the skills that are having something to do with crowd control. And here, this is important. We gain 2 energy when puncture, this basic skill, hits a crowd control enemy. So our energy management is very good because we are looking for crowd control abilities or skills, like for example chill effects or knockdown effects, etc. So this is our energy generator, and then going to the core skill would be the flurry, which is a flurry of stabs like in front of you, enhanced by if it damages a crowd control, again, enemy or vulnerable enemy, then we are healed. It's very good for sustainability here because we are in melee range, we get a lot of damage. And also I picked here that if I hit a vulnerable enemy, it will make all enemies that are hit by that cast also vulnerable. So if we are in the thick of it, we make one of them vulnerable through puncture, and then use flurry, and then all around us will get damage and also become vulnerable, which means they get 20% increased damage. Moving on to agility skills, this is more like your, I mean, not to say defensive skills, but you're like jumping, moving around stuff. There's also cult drops here that are slowing traps, but we only have 1 point in each of these because of an item, more to that later. But I opted to use Shadow Step here to have a bit of mobility, and also it stuns here for 2.38 seconds, which is also crowd control again, which also helps our energy regeneration. And it gives me critical strike chance for 3 seconds, which is good against like bosses or elites. There are also these little notes here, they're like passive effects. Here I have sturdy, 2 points in it to get close damage reduction, because we are always in melee range in the thick of it. This is very important. I want to put in more points, but again, I'm only level 25 and I don't have any points available. And here in agility we also have weapon mastery, which gives you a bonus based on the weapon you're using. So we have swords equipped, more to that later, and the dagger. So overall it just gives you more damage. Then going to subterfuge, I opted for poison trap because it does a decent amount of damage, and also enhanced poison trap, which knocks down the enemies that it hits when it activates. So here we have again a crowd control effect, which is very nice. There's also an argument for smoke grenade because it dazes them, which is also crowd control. But I kind of had a bit of trouble in hitting what I wanted to hit when I'm using the controller, because it just sometimes throws it at the back of the enemy group and not at the front. So I liked poison trap more because I set it directly underneath me, where I'm in the thick of it and where there are a lot of monsters, but more to that later when we go into gameplay. Not really passives used here yet. Moving on to imbuement skills. Imbuement skills is you give a certain type of your abilities. For example, these one, they say core. I cannot keep it, but it says core, imbuable, and cutthroat. And imbuable means that you can enhance it with all of these skills, and there's shadow, poison, and cold, and I opted for cold because again of the crowd control aspect. Chill is also a crowd control aspect, and this one chills the enemies. Plus I do increase damage to chill enemies. And I got precision imbuement, which means imbued skills also have 10% increased critical strike chance of 5% per level. So the way it works is I use my imbuement and then I use my flurry, and it is imbued with cold then, and it has a higher critical strike chance by using it. More on that on the gameplay. And then we're going to ultimates, and there I also have a crowd control ability here, which is Death Trap, but it also does a lot of damage. And the modifier is that enemies are pulled into the Death Trap, which is the crowd control effect, and also if it kills an enemy, its cooldown is reduced. So that's pretty cool, like with big groups or elite groups or minions and like very strong enemies. You will see this is awesome. And yeah, that's about it for these skills. Moving on to character, I have some legendaries that actually help us here. For example, I have the Joker of Surprise here. It leaves stun grenades when I evade or shadow step. So shadow step is a skill that I used. Evade is something that everybody has, where you can move quickly out of danger. It's just like this dodge mechanic, and then you will see there are some grenades falling down from my original position. This is the legendary effect, which is also cool, but because it's again a crowd control effect, and it also plays into this. It says chilled enemies hit by your grenade skills, which I assume this would be stun grenade, have a chance equal to double your critical strike chance to be instantly frozen for 2 seconds, and you deal 80% increased critical strike damage against frozen enemies. So even the second part alone is pretty cool because of our ability to chill enemies, which also says that repeatedly chilling enemies will freeze it. So we can freeze enemies and then we do more critical strike damage. And moving on, there are some that don't really play into this build. I mean, this is just lucky hit, dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy, has up to a 41% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. Okay, thinking about it now, it plays into the build. Still have to figure out like lucky hit, how can I use it? Essentially there's like a lucky hit chance tied to like these basic attacks, and then you have like, for example, if you have 50% lucky hit chance, then this will proc, but that's how far I understood it. Moving on, there's like this one where I get an barrier when I attack elite enemies. It's just a defensive thing I found. These boots have increased crowd control duration, and I deal increased damage to unstoppable enemies, which I think are, for example, boss enemies, because you cannot crowd control them. This is just a thorns damage. I just found this. It's not really. I'm not really using the crossbow actually. As you can see, we have melee weapons and ranged weapon, so you can use both. But this only gets used with ranged skills, and I don't really have them. I'm not really sure if it gets used with my basic skill, because it is a marksman skill, so it is a ranged skill. But it says requires dual wielded weapons, so I'm assuming it's not using my crossbow, because if we go here to these arrows shots, it says requires a ranged weapon. So it is a marksman build, and sorry, it is a marksman skill, but it uses like your dual wield melee weapons as base for damage. And I forgot, like we cannot reach this here. This is a key passive, and there are several that adhere to us. I mean, there's exposure, has something to do with traps, but the really great ones for us for melee combat is like this: close quarters combat, damaging a close enemy with marksman or cutthroat skills, each throw and 10% attack speed bonus for 8 seconds. While both attack speed bonuses are active, you deal 20% increased damage against ground control enemies. So this is pretty great, because we have a marksman skill here, and then cutthroat skills here and here, which means we can easily get both 10% attack speed bonuses for 20% attack speed bonus, and then also we do increased damage against crowd control enemies. So this is the offensive option. It's also momentum for a more, I guess, more defensive option. If we do a cutthroat skill against like stunned, dazed, frozen enemies, or hit an enemy from behind. Shadow Step, I think, always hits from behind. We can get a stack of momentum, and if you have 3 stacks, we get damage reduction, energy regeneration, and movement speed. So this sounds more like a defensive passive, and you can only choose one of these. Going back to the inventory, sorry, bear with me if I'm talking too much or too less, and please leave me feedback in the comments. This is the first time doing a build video or any video on Diablo 4, and it's also pretty new to me, so... moving on, got this sword. It also has skill steal up to 27% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast. Maximum benefit when I have full primary resource. So primary resource here is the energy, which I have 108 max. And the more I have, like if I have 108 and I'm using a skill, like any skill I guess, then it does 27% increased damage. If I have less, then it's less. And this one is a big one. So I imprinted this because I found this aspect, and now I'm going into more like the kind of, what do you say, mechanics of the game. Like you have all these legendary aspects that you can find. You can find them like in dungeons. I think these are not on items that you find, but only you can find them like on events, on dungeons or something. And I found this one very early on, which was really great for this build. Flurry damages the enemies in a circle around you and deals increased damage. And it says here unlocked by completing Forsaken Quarry, and this is a dungeon. And you can do this solo, so no problem at all. And I don't think there's a difficulty attached to it. Might be different later. I mean, here it actually says where you get it. Progress campaign here, progress campaign, unlocked by completing Inferno in Kyrgyzstan. So we need to take a look at these later. But here for Flurry, let me show this. This is our main skill, our main spender. And if I don't use this legendary, you can see the Flurry normally just is in a straight line. So everything in front gets hit. But if I have this legendary power, which says enemies in a circle around you, it's all around me. And this is just awesome because we can just teleport into the enemies and then use this and hit everything. So keep that in mind. It's easy to get. I mean, this is Act 1. You get this in Act 1. I don't know if it's static where you get the legendary powers or if it like is different for everybody. But I got this very early on. So if you want to play this build, keep that in mind. What else do we got? And we have using an agility skill reduces the cooldown of your next subterfuge skill by 20%. Using a subterfuge skill increases the damage of your next agility skill by 10%. So this is a synergy between Shadow Step and Poison Trap for us here. If we use Poison Trap, then Shadow Step does more damage. If we use Shadow Step, the next Poison Trap has a reduced cooldown, which is pretty cool. The next one is attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 9% up to 50%. So this is basically if we use our basic skill and hit enemies, we get a buff. You will see that later, and it stacks up to 50%. When we use a Flurry, then a core skill, then it gets used up and it does more damage. And that's basically all we have for now, I think. Yeah. I think that's everything. There is no like attributes to allocate here. So we have strength, intelligence, willpower, dexterity, but these are just things that you get while leveling and get from gear. So nothing to really talk about here. I mean, we have all these other stats. We have a critical strike of 8.7%. I mean, nothing like too great. This is just level 25 build, but let's see how it plays. And I'm going into this dungeon, never been here before, but it should be no problem whatsoever. We're playing on World Tier 2, which is the highest you can go right now in the beta. And basically what you want to do, oh yeah, one thing I forgot, we have a specialization. Oh my goodness, my voice is already falling down. So you can choose one of these specializations as a rogue. One is combo points, which means the basic skills that I do, which is here puncture, this one. They generate these combo points. And then Flurry will consume combo points. if you have 3 combo points, you do more damage. You can see here 1 point, 483, 2 points, 579, 3 points, 76. And you also get bonus attack speed, which really shows. I mean, it's 45% bonus attack speed, and then you are much faster in using this. So the combo is doing 1, 2, 3 on the enemies, and then Flurry, and then also use like Poison Trap, Cold Imbuement. The other specialization is also pretty cool. It's Inner Sight, and it marks enemies with like this eye above them. And then you just attack them as normal, and there's a gauge, I don't know where it is, it's here, and this one fills up, and if it's up, then you will get unlimited energy for 4 seconds. So I haven't played around much with it, I just got it, I think, with level 25, I'm not even sure when, but this seems also cool. But I like the feel and flow of combat with combo points, so I'm gonna do this now. And yeah, I accidentally pressed the Cold Imbuement. You can see, which is pretty cool, these icons also change to blue color, which means they're now doing cold damage. As you can see, if I do this, now they're back to the normal physical damage. So the colors here also represent what kind of damage it does. You can also see it on the tooltip. It's physical damage here, shadow damage. This is, of course, cold. This is poison damage. And I really, really like that. It's visually very, very appealing. So again, you can pre-buff with your imbuement here. It's no problem. And the cooldown already runs, and you can see at the little 2. It means you have 2 charges up. And let's get right into it. Hope we're getting like a big group, because this is not really many enemies. I also have a legendary that I haven't used yet. It gives me 2 charges of Shadow Step, which is also pretty cool. I still need to extract the legendary power and then imprint it on something else that I can use. So let's group some enemies just to show. I will do 1, 2, 3, and then the Flurry. That's just not back here. I can also use the Poison Trap here, and then my ultimate is like this. So it does a huge amount of damage and then pulls them in. So the cool combination is then with Poison Trap and the ultimate. Poison Trap is this. I don't know why it says immune all the time. I think they need to fix that, because it's really, I don't know, distracting. Here we have an Elita. He's a Waller. So we can jump onto him. Also, the good thing is if you wait, like you see me dodging a little bit here, then I will drop the stun grenades here. So you want to kind of go a little bit in or out of, not of combat, but in or out of groups. Use your evade, use your shadow step. Like evade here, now they're all stunned again. And evade doesn't have like a huge range, so you can still attack anything in range. I still need to get a little bit of the flow of like always using my imbue, because they get chilled, which means they are crowd controlled, which means we get extra energy, we're doing more damage, and we're getting healed by Flurry as well. And here using my ultimate again, because there's a champion, and you can see it's very, very awesome high damage. We have this Absorb Shield, because of the one legendary effect that gives me a shield when I attack elite enemies. I think in terms of mob density, I think we don't see many mobs here, because we are still on like only World Tier 2, and it's still Act 1, and so it's a low level dungeon, you know. Think about back to Diablo 2. If you go through Act 1 normal, the mob density actually is not as great as it is in Hell. What do I have to do here? So basically it gets in a nice rhythm, a nice flow of like 1, 2, 3, and then using Flurry. And then also supplemented by your imbuement, your traps, and using Shadow Step. Where do I need to go? And then evade from time to time. I'm kind of using evade more as a means to drop these grenades. Maybe later on, if it gets harder, you need to use evade more as the means of escaping some of these abilities or skills from the enemies. It's certainly the case if you fight a boss, which might come up here later. I'm gonna try to focus more on going through this gate. So usually in a dungeon like there's like a gate or something, a door. At least that's my experience so far, and you have to do some stuff to get it open. Like here we need to activate these gate winches. And you can use this dungeon anyhow, but we also have a quest that leads us here. So usually, my experience is there's usually a side quest that will lead you here into these dungeons. But you can also just go in there. I mean, at one dungeon I just went in before even having a side quest, and then I had to go in again later because I got the quest, but that's okay, because you get rewards for it. Or like, let's say drops, of course, if you can find drops. And also the dungeons so far, they scale with your level. This might only be due to the leveling progress right now, or process. Oftentimes they are dazed or even like frozen, which is, I think, very important for a melee build, because like if you, I mean, even then you get a lot of damage, and you need to use your potions, have some potion management. What's that? Oops. Sometimes Shadow Step is really funny in terms of it kind of teleports you somewhere off screen. If I'm doing it right, our energy actually is almost like always 50% or higher. Because we are doing like these basic skills 3 times anyways to get our combo points going. Alright, so now we activated this also, and now the door is open. Where is the door? Really like the effect of the imbue, as you can see, like it is visually very appealing. Like it changes the skills that are imbued and also shows on your weapons that you have an imbuement on. And this is the same for if you use a shadow or a poison imbuement. You cannot use multiple imbuements at the same time. You can use them one after another if you choose to do so. I don't think there's much benefit in using multiple of these skills at the same time, because you're limited to 6 skills in your hotbar, right? Okay, my inventory is full. But I guess theoretically you could use multiple ultimate skills. I guess one is enough. I think I got knocked down here. Yeah, my inventory is so full. Oh, then they want me to slay all enemies? Right. Okay. So I think you got a good sense of the build. I hope you liked this first video. I'm gonna make some more about this, talk about Diablo 4 as much as I can. I mean, the beta is limited, And there's another open beta next week, so you can see for yourself. If you like to play the rogue and maybe do some melee build, try this out if you want. I think it's very fun. I was actually looking for something melee and agile, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Good luck, have fun, and goodbye.